Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to hear finally made it to Munich. I don't know how many times we talked and met wherever, and once I guess you slept with us in a guest house at South by, but we never made it to really meet in person or actually here in Munich. So I'm really happy also to be here with Tino. What do we want to do actually? It's really give you a look into the corporate innovation machine, what works, what not, what is our personal experience. And so this is what we're gonna do. I don't know who comes from a big corporate from your side, but corporate innovation often rather looks like this. So they all say they have the big strategies and so on, but to be frank, it's not always this, or most times not. And but this is something companies don't like to show actually. But on the other hand, we know the future is exponential, and as Kurt Simon explained, what is happening is beyond our imagination. We just can't capture this, what's going on. And so this is something we need to keep in mind. And this is from 2011. So it doesn't matter if the number is correct when mice or when AI will be more intelligent than mice, than we are, than whoever, but it will be. It's 2045, 2025. It doesn't matter. It just tells us the last steps which happen have a speed we can't imagine. One guy I can recommend you when you want to talk about AI, and this is Chris Bose in Frankfurt. He is one of the, or has one of the 3 worldwide leading teams in AI, and what it tells you. When we played against Go, chess, whatever, this was quite easy. Now it's about, they play strategy games, which is really real life. Why is a strategy game like real life? There's fortune, there's luck, things happen which statistically are not used or supposed to happen actually. So, how will the future look like? Actually, we don't know. We know the past pretty well. We know what we have around on tech, and some funny classes. 3 weeks ago, I was at an aviation conference where they use or want to use these classes to repair planes in the future, so that people who are capable holding a screwdriver are also capable of repairing a plane. It's not that easy, sure, but just to give you an idea. And the phones, we know, I don't need to tell you. So this is why I'm doing fast forward. But another thing, a year ago, my former CEO, Mr. Spohr, he said at the DLD here in Munich, we will always have pilots in the cockpit. Today, I would say we definitely need crews in the planes. I don't know if we necessarily need the pilots, probably for psychological reasons, that we feel better in the plane, but not necessarily for flying. What they are doing drive or flying by stick, actually, they don't need to sit in a plane. And the interesting thing is what to see on the right side. This flying vehicle is from Lilium. It's a Munich startup, and this thing is actually flying. And it has like, I don't know, 24, 28 engines. And when 2, 3, 5 engines blow up, it doesn't matter, it still flies. So what does it mean? Sci-fi becomes reality, and this quite quick. And what Xiaomai is doing with the sensors, etc., I think this is a company who shows us what speed it takes in the future, and now what can we learn from or for the corporate world in regard of this. Industries blur. So for the automotive industry, are they in transportation? But what is transportation or flying? So is it now an Airbus business? Is it now a car business? What is it? And so for every company, like I just talked last week to somebody to do events for wines in Basel, Basel Weinmesse. But I said, no, no, you're not an event. You're a sales platform for wine. And you make people come once a year to come together. And so we need to look at our business. Is it still the business we think of or we thought that it is? And so these category shifts are necessary. The car makers now start to realize, maybe we're not talking about transportation. Maybe if I have an appointment with my dentist, it could be right in front of the place here. What does it mean? For example, Toyota with this multi-purpose moving vehicle. There could be a co-working space inside, there could be a dentist office inside, but maybe it better doesn't drive when the dentist is working on my teeth, actually. Or here, Airbus working on modules for airplanes. So that you have a restaurant module, sleeping module, you book 2 hours co-working, you book 1 hour sports during a flight, and not just a seat for 10 hours. I don't want a seat. Yes, I want to get from A to B. And this is where I say the future of flying, for example, is not that people optimize eating, drinking, watching movies. And so also here we have to rethink what the business is at the end of the day. And it's not transportation. It's maybe something else. Maybe I can have a medical checkup during a flight in the future. Why do I need to go to a doctor? Or when we look here, we have Reflect around. They are working on the nice screens for the Hyperloop. What are they doing? They have cameras where they do a face tracking and an eye tracking and simulate that you're looking outside a real window. But as you know, in a Hyperloop, there are no windows actually. And what are the marketeers doing? Saying, well, we could put everything on these screens, ads and so on. I don't know if you want to have ads on these screens or on your windows in your car. But this is actually what you see or what people are thinking about. And so the question is, how can we cope with this future where we don't know how it works? For this, in a little bit, Tino tells you an approach which might work or works so far for him. In the past, we saw many funny things which didn't work, actually, like the isolator, so that you can work and nobody is disturbing you, or that your cigarette doesn't get wet. So there might be markets, but they are too niche, actually. So it's all about customer expectations. And as you know from Steve Jobs already, usually customers don't necessarily know what they want, or Ford, if you ask them for a mean of transportation, then they say faster horse ride, actually, carriage, a horse carriage, a faster one, but not necessarily cars. What I show you next is, anybody knows what this is except for Kurt Simon? It's printed coffee foam, but it's with all organic extract. If I would ask you, would you love to have your coffee personalized? You would say, okay, I'm not sure about this one. But I tell you, if your coffee has a picture of your dog on it, I haven't met so far anybody who drank their coffee warm or even hot, actually, because everybody is taking pictures for 20 minutes, posting it everywhere. As I said, it's an all-organic extract. We had it in the first-class lounges, for example, at Lufthansa. We did a beta test. But what does it tell you? In the future, you can personalize everything, not only your coffee foam. Probably the wooden table will be more expensive than an OLED display in the future. So, and all surfaces becoming also marketing opportunities, but also mean that they are not what they were in the past. So what we need is coming out of context, or from context actually, but sometimes out of context. Wi-Fi on your desktop, I don't know. I disable it always. Or here, why can't you have the same convenience in a hotel than you have with my taxi? Why do I need to go to the reception in the morning? I don't want to actually. And if I took something from the minibar and you will tell me, then just deduct it from my account. But I have no need to be at the reception in the morning to check out also. So, a lot of stuff we have to test to see if it works or not. Nothing new, I need to tell you. There are a lot of products out there which we saw in the past, and like the Google Glass was too early. Amazon Local, yeah, but Amazon Go, it's a different story. Apple also put everything in a box, but didn't work. And so when we wrap up now all what I showed you, and when we talk about this AI stuff and so on, I think there are two things which are major important for you and you need to keep in mind. So it's not only that we are not necessarily ready in the companies. This is quite a big challenge, but as said already, we are risk averse. We always do the 200 cent per solution, especially in the airline industry, but also in every engineering-driven company here in Europe or in Germany especially. Then often it's beyond the human imagination what's happening. Even the coffee foam, printed coffee foam, nobody would have expected printed coffee foam. It's also not necessarily something you need, but when people have it, they want to keep it. So most important, I believe, stay curious. And when I have in the past had people interviews also, I tried to find out, are they creative? And I said, ask them, if you have no budget restrictions, what project would you do? This was the hardest question for most people. They were really struggling because suddenly they had no boundaries, and they were used and socialized in living with boundaries, and that boundaries giving orientation. And now I took the orientation away and I said, now go for it, and if it's a great idea, let's pitch it. But most people, they asked even for a second interview or so. Can we discuss this in a different interview? Then I can think about it. So I knew maybe not the right people, not that creative as I hoped for. And yeah, sometimes as the coffee foam, this might be maybe for a year interesting, but if you have always printed coffee foam around and maybe ads on coffee foam, then we say, no, leave the coffee foam away. I just want to have my coffee. So back to the two things I want to tell you. So it's really not about technology, and this is also the good answer or the good news for you. You don't need to understand technology. You need to understand how people want to live in a digital world. And on the other side, we do a lot of design thinking. It helps you to get further, but actually it's about transformation, or how we call it. It doesn't matter. And at the Bundesverband Digitale Wirtschaft this year, I did the opening keynote for their New Year's reception, and the title was Tradition is not a strategy, and digital is not a project. And I think these are two things companies need to understand. So yeah, they have the heritage, but it doesn't help just to see how they can connect to their heritage, but also they have to transform it. And now, when we look at an exponential future, the good news is everything is becoming human, because machines can do the binary stuff better than we do, actually. And so we have these funny boxes around called Alexas and whatever. And yeah, we will have in the future robots doing this stuff. But to be frank, we are best in being human, and this is where we need to focus on, and then use technology. And this is for the corporates what they need to understand, and then they can use the tools. And one of a great approach we saw is here from Tino, and I'm really happy to be here with him, not doing just crazy ideas many years ago, talking about nerdbirds and flying labs, but really now seeing how this can work in a corporate environment.
Thorsten, thanks a lot. So, no. So now I want to tell you a little bit how we drive innovation, innovative digital projects within E.ON, within the corporation, within the corporate like E.ON. Very often you hear that, yeah, just apply the lean startup methodology and everything is done. It's that damn easy. It isn't. Because a corporate is still a corporate, and you normally start a startup with a solution in mind, with something that you know already, some problem that you know that you want to solve. The problem for a corporation is predominantly how to make business. So the question is where the ideas comes from in the beginning, where the idea comes from that I want to deliver to the customer, which kind of solution could I provide that really delivers value. And for us, this starts with the inspiration phase. This is before the lean startup process starts. Sorry. And we have more or less 4 sections that we get our inspirations from. So a very, very important section, and this is for every venture manager in the Future Lab, is the private environment, is the personal, private life. So the observations that we make, the problems that we are faced to ourselves, that the problems that we observe that others are faced to. So what kind of problems do we see, what kind of pain points do we discover, and also what kind of possible future expectations do we already discover that could become relevant for us. So this is the personal experience area. The second thing is the cross-company collaboration. So like we did together some kind of brainstormings, idea meetings. We also collaborate with a lot of other corporations, with a lot of other companies, also small and medium companies. And sometimes we identify very, very interesting possible solutions, and we identify pain points that no one was able to really name before, that no one could really address. And in the dialogue with other companies, we come to very, very interesting approaches that we can follow on. The next thing is the collaboration with startups, because they normally have the solution in mind already. And here we are very, very interested in benefit from the creativity from the startups, and also to leverage the startups and what they drive, what they do. Because very often a solution that they want to provide, a solution that they want to bring to the customer, could become part of a bigger set of solutions that we offer. So also the work with startups is extremely inspiring for us, and in many cases it's a win-win situation for both at the end. And of course we make horizon scanning, trend scanning, and we focus more on horizon 2, horizon 3, so to 3 years to 10 years in the future. So what kind of new expectations could come up? Internally, after this phase, the venture manager scribbles down his idea, what came from the inspiration, what evolved from the inspiration, and we extended the normal lean startup approach a little bit. So this is the normal elevator pitch from the lean startup methodology. We extended it a little bit with predominantly 2 questions, the when and where, because we discovered that very often the location context and also the timing is extremely relevant for innovation. And also, if you're a corporation, you're sometimes relying on technology that's maybe not here yet, but it's in another market available already. So when we talk about smart meters, it will probably take a long while until we all will have smart meters at home, and maybe this is not a contemporary technology anymore when we get them. But if you have a look at Sweden, they already have the smart meter infrastructure. So once we come up with a possible solution that we could test, we could directly test it in Sweden, but not necessarily here in Germany. So these are the 6 questions that every venture manager notes, that every venture manager has to answer. And then we have an idea pitch. It's a 2-minute idea pitch. So we gather all these idea templates. We invite internal and external people, and we pitch the ideas to decide which idea we want to go into the next phase, into the concept phase. And a very important thing we learned over years now within a corporation is also to classify the ideas and the possible concepts, because we have dedicated targets. We have to deliver on dedicated KPIs. And if we want to do so, we also have to identify the dependencies of the different initiatives. First of all, it's a very important thing to decide on a lab, an innovation lab, future lab, you name it, how to position it within a company. So Thorsten was leading a team, and there was another team in a Lufthansa corporation that was driving innovation. So what have been the differences?
Yeah, for example, we had a core team. I ran the core team, and then we had or have still the innovation hub, which is outside of Lufthansa. And a big struggle is for the companies, how do you find the right distance? And I believe there is not the question or, but and. You need something which is a little bit more outside or as far away as possible, maybe at the company. At the same time, you need something which is inside, right next to the core business. Because there are ideas which really, you don't need managers from a company doing tinkering around in your business ideas. Actually, you do for another market or whatever, where they have no clue of. But at the same time, there are ideas which are close to the core product, and you need the other departments, etc. This kind of stuff. And so this is something where a lot of companies are struggling with. And but I believe in the end you need both. But at the same time, this is where often it works or works not.
Thank you. So for us, we decided that we start first with an integrated lab, so that's within the corporation, with all the limitations, but also with all the benefits that we have. The reason is that the energy business was pretty far behind everything else around customer experience, about delivery, also digital services. So it's very important to be focused also on the core business and not only go beyond. The moment we want to go more beyond, discover new strategic business fields and so on, it maybe becomes appropriate also to found a complete dedicated unit that's outside the corporation. But currently we benefit a lot from all the parameters that are delivered by the corporation itself. But what we did is we made a matrix, and we divide our initiatives and concepts into island projects, mainland projects, and volcano projects. Maybe you ask yourself now, what does it mean? So for us, an island project is a project that we can drive on our own. It's not relying on any assets that we have that we own within E.ON. So we do not use the E.ON brand, we do not use the E.ON customer base, we do not use the assets, the physical assets like wind turbines or grids. We do not use the budget. Okay, we use the budget, but everything else we do not use from the corporation. This means we are extremely fast when driving island projects, and we can directly apply the lean startup methodology. The mainland projects are projects that rely on some kind of E.ON-owned assets, which means we have to drive an enormous amount of stakeholder management. Because the corporations have normally a few thousand employees, up to a 6-digit number of employees. And it's pretty probable that some one of them, or a few of them, already thought about something similar. And they just jump on the stage and say, hey, this is mine initiative, you're not allowed to do it. So these pre-wiring, these talking with people from different angles, at different hierarchy levels, this is a very, very effortful way of driving projects. However, the moment we want to bring something into the corporation and we want to position something within the business fields of the company, we definitely have to drive it. But that means it takes by far longer to launch such a mainland project compared to an island project. And related to our targets, to our KPIs, we have to be pretty careful in saying, yes, we have 3 great mainland ideas, we drive them. We can be pretty sure that we will never launch a single island project, and probably not even the 3, because there is too much effort in all the stakeholder management, the processes, and so on. So we have to develop a pretty good mixed-up portfolio. The volcano projects are projects that are treated like an island project, but basically they are mainland projects. That means it's something that has some kind of disruptive character. So something that definitely has to go into the current business model of the company, but we would struggle if we would make a huge stakeholder management upfront, because then it's disrupting, as mentioned. People would start to say, yeah, we do not want to have it because it would destroy our current business. And if you have someone that's responsible for the current business, he probably does not feel so well if you destroy for the next 5 years his EBIT share and his gratification, promising him that after 5 years it becomes exponential better. Most of the managers want to keep what they can control. So therefore, we treat these volcano projects that are highly disruptive within the current business as islands. We try to gather as much as facts and figures. We made it bulletproof that once we come up and we go to the board and present it, they say, fuck, that's right, we definitely have to do it. Because the risk of not doing it is by far higher than the risk of doing it. And this we have to keep under the hood until we really have the facts that we can prove that the scenario is the right one. Oh, sorry. And also you'll see the positioning below. So in each category, we position our initiatives either within the current business or outside the current business. And we have these wow factors. So sometimes it's about the art of the possible. Sometimes it's also about just to show what will be possible in the future, even if it's not allowed yet. When we talk about peer-to-peer energy, for example, regulation-wise, it's not possible, it's not allowed currently to have a real peer-to-peer trading solution for private customers. It's very, very complicated. One can do something like that, but it's not real yet. It will become real in the future. And to show that that's possible and how we would approach this is already pretty beneficial for us. So here you see a few chances and risks. There are much more, but these are only a few ones related to an island project. If you have to do everything on our own, that means you really have to do everything on your own, and you cannot rely on the support of the organization. So this means also you cannot just call the lawyer and say, hey, I have a project that's not related to E.ON at all, but I need your help. Sometimes that's a little bit complicated because they just have to prioritize. And if there is something that has not at all something to do with the E.ON business, the lawyers maybe have to prioritize the current burning questions that are related to the E.ON business. For a mainland project, we also have a few opportunities, and also, of course, we see risks there. And basically, this is what I already described. I have to hurry up a little bit. The volcano project is an island project that is actually a mainland project, but under the hood until we can uncover it. How do we work? We have these triangle. We start always with the customer value, because at the end, if the customer sees no value in it, it doesn't matter if we see business value, and it doesn't matter if it's technically feasible or legal feasible, no one would buy it. So we start definitely with the customer value first, and we go into this. Once we prove there is customer value, customers are interested, customers would probably also spend money for it, we go into the business opportunities, and we try to show that there is real business value. Until we could show, after we could show there is real business value, and yes, the company would like to go into it, we check for the feasibility, because the feasibility thing is something that it's very interesting. Sometimes things are not feasible yet, but we also can see the perspective on the timeline that it will be maybe feasible within 1 year or 2 years. So we already keep this in mind, because we started with the value first and we see there's a huge value pool. But we maybe have to develop a special kind of technology, we have to learn, we have to go with the market, and we can just apply it once it becomes reality and once it becomes really feasible, legally technical. So within the cluster, within the evaluation of our concepts, we have then these pictures. We show where we are, where we have to go into it, and where we have to focus more in the evaluation process before we really start to build, because we do not want to start to build and spend money, even if it's only a little bit of money, if it's technically or legally not allowed. Yeah, basically what we drive is, or how we drive our initiatives. We start with the inspiration that has to happen in the minds of all the colleagues. We also take outside ideas. from colleagues, from internals and from externals. We develop an idea out of it. We classify the idea and structure our portfolio to deliver on our KPIs. And also, of course, we validate during the concept phase. This is also very agile with a very heterogeneous team of people in a short amount of time. And then we apply the real lean startup methodology. So then we start with build, measure, learn, have multiple iterations, check how to improve the value proposition. Maybe we have to pivot, and sometimes we have to kill an initiative at the end, but very often we can hand over the initiative to the business, to another region, to another market. And this is the way how we drive innovation based on the learnings that we gathered over the last 2 to 2.5 years. Thank you.